Hello, in this short film I'm going to run through a series of composing tasks based on Anna Klein's Sound and Fury. And I'll be joined by three musicians from the Scottish Chamber Orchestra: Aislinn on violin, Louise on marimba, and William on clarinets. We've put these online as a series of short films for your students to watch and follow along. So in this film, we're going to show you how to support your students through the project. I strongly suggest that before starting, you watch our introductory film on Anna Klein and the full performance of Sound and Fury performed by the Scottish Chamber Orchestra with their conductor Catherine Larson-Maguire. You can find all of that on our website. This composing project is divided into 5 or 6 tasks, the first of which is a listening task. So I would like you and your students to watch the first section of Sound and Fury, which is from the beginning of the performance until about 2.5 minutes in. You need to encourage your students to write down any ideas that stand out to them. So for example, the opening sounds like this. So you could write that down in words as angry gesture or maybe snarl, or you could suggest to your students that they plot it on a stave, even if it's vague and the pictures are wrong, or they could just make an abstract gesture on their page, maybe a wiggly line. So there's lots of different ways to tackle this. You can do it as a straightforward listening test. You could also look at it as a way to find out about your students' vocabulary. So you could encourage them to use words like staccato, accented. They also need to figure out which instruments are playing which idea, or it could be just simply an abstract graphic score task. All of these ways are very useful and valid. Make sure you listen several times to this opening so you can squeeze out as many ideas as possible, and then collate all your students' ideas on the board, looking for similarities and vast differences. Hopefully there aren't too many of those. Composing task 2 is all about stealing or borrowing ideas and beginning to develop them. So at this point, you need to think carefully about how you're going to organize your class for the rest of the project. I suggest you split them into small composing teams of maybe 4 or 5 students with a mixture of ability and instrument. But this task will work equally well as an activity for the full class or with students working individually on software such as Sibelius, Audacity, or GarageBand. Totally up to you. Either way, your students need to choose their 3 favorite motifs from the long list and have a go at inventing their own version of those motifs. So here's Aislinn inventing her own angry gesture. Here's a new fanfare by Louise. And here's a gorgeous smooth melody on bass clarinet. Or you could borrow the ideas from Anna Klein, and we've listed all of these on our PDF resource. So here's Anna Klein's angry gesture. Here's her fanfare, and here's her smooth melody. Those ideas were borrowed from Haydn. And again, you will know your students and what's best for them. If you've got good players, then I would direct them towards the real motifs which we've put in our pack. But if you've got players who are new to playing or are good improvisers, it might be more fun for them to invent their own gestures. Also, look at the instruments you've got available. You can make an angry gesture on any instrument, body percussion or voice, but it takes a particular instrument to make a good, smooth melody. When your composers have got their 3 motifs, it's time to start developing them. And at this point, you might want to demonstrate a few ways to work with their ideas. Things like fragmentation. So here's Aislinn fragmenting her angry gesture. You could try augmentation, lengthening the note values of an idea. The opposite of augmentation is diminution, shortening the note values. So the fanfare would sound like this. And here's that lovely melody looped round and round and round. have a go at layering up ideas. You could even create call and response or antiphony. And of course, you can add to this list any techniques that you are currently studying or that will help you out elsewhere on the syllabus. As your students get to work, make sure that they are keeping a record of their ideas, either writing them down, scoring them, or recording them. And keep an eye on who's playing which instruments so there's not too much instrument swapping going along. One of the biggest challenges composers face is starting their pieces, and hopefully we're here to help with that. The next big challenge is getting bored of ideas and keeping on creating new ideas. And apart from anything else, there just isn't time to keep starting from scratch. So this project is all about showing students that composing is about having a handful of ideas and working with them and developing them. Now it's time to compose. It's time to change these ideas into a small, structured piece. At this point, I would suggest you ban any new ideas and you prompt your students by using questions such as, how are you going to start? How are you going to end? And where, when, and how are you going to rise to a peak? So this is how our musicians got on with this task.
So we've got kind of three quite contrasting ideas there, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
I think it would be great to have an interruption because the bass clarinet tune is quite smooth, as you say, and then the aggressive sort of violin interjection might create a...
So the anger comes in the middle a little bit.
Yes, a sort of outburst against that character, as it were.
Yeah. And should I play to the end, the top note, or should I not play that top note so that there's a bit of suspense there or something? Should we try that? And Louise, what about you?
Well, my idea is quite a good introduction, so maybe we could start with my idea and then go into William's smooth tune, and then you do your introduction.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's see what
Should we try
happens.
that?
So we just...
That was really good, but maybe we should make it a little bit longer. How do you think would be best to do that?
Well, you know you did your melody on a loop before. So if you do the loop, then maybe if I interrupt a couple of times, but not play all the way through.
I could interrupt maybe with my shortened version, the quicker fanfare, a bit quieter, and then we could kind of match as interruptions as well. Should we try that?
Would you like me to stop each time you interrupt, or
No, I think
Or
it'd be
should I-
really nice if you were to continue.
so just not be at all phased by this outburst?
So there's the real contrast of characters.
Right.
You're just, it's a bit like the hare and the tortoise. You're just carrying on at your pace.
Right.
And I just wonder, I don't want to get too complicated, but maybe we could do a call and response at some point.
Yes, yeah, that would be good. We could do our interjections as a little call and response.
Yeah, maybe after the first time.
Yeah?
Yeah? Should we
Sounds
give it a go?
Yeah.
Let's see.
At this stage, your students should have a short, finished section based on the first section of Sound and Fury by Anna Klein. As ever, make sure that they're writing down their ideas because they will need them later on in the project. Anna Klein was also inspired by a Shakespeare soliloquy from Macbeth. We hear a recorded version of this in the 5th section of Sound and Fury on top of a repeating chord progression. When a chord progression loops round and round with changing ideas on top, it's known as a Passicalia. So this is a perfect chance for your students to get to grips with this concept from the syllabus. First, they need to find a chord progression. They can invent one, they can borrow one from a favourite song, or like Anna, they can borrow from Haydn. So here's the chord progression that she uses. You can find those chords listed in our PDF resource. You could invent a new chord progression with your full class, and this would be an opportunity to look at some areas of the curriculum that maybe you're struggling with, things like major or minor chords, modulations, or cadences. Next, you need some words. Again, you can invent these, you can borrow them, or you can use the same words that Anna Klein uses, Shakespeare's Tomorrow and Tomorrow soliloquy. And then it's just time to have a go. You need to encourage your students to loop their chord progression round and round, improvise on top, and see how and where the text fits. This is a great opportunity for any singers you might have in your class, but remember, it is speaking that we want here, not singing. So our musicians had a go at this, using the same chords and the same text as Anna Klein, and this is how they got on.
So now we have this Passicalia. What can we do with that? What do you think? What does it mean? I think Passicalia, it means kind of on a loop, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I think the bass line loops, and then as we loop, we could maybe vary some other part of the music, develop it somehow.
Maybe we could, if we're going to do that, make each chord last a little bit longer so that we've got more time over each chord, because they were kind of lasting 2 beats. So maybe we should make it in 4/4, a bit longer.
Yeah. Okay. Should we give it a go?
Yeah. Should we stick to the same chords that we were doing just now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's see what happens.
Should we count in out loud then? So sort of 1, 2, 3, 4.
From day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day.
A good way to write this down is to count how many times you cycle through the chord progression, make a list of numbers down one side of a page, and then the corresponding musical and text ideas alongside each number. So at this point, your students have got 2 sections of music. They've got a short piece derived from the first section of Anna Klein's Sound and Fury, perhaps with angry gestures in it, and they've got a new Passicalia using text and a chord progression. So the next job is to decide on an order for these 2 sections and join them together. So this is how we got on.
So we've got our 2 sections now, so we need to kind of decide how we're going to order them into one bigger piece. Do you think we should start with the Passicalia that we just had a look at, or should we start with the first bit with the interjections?
If we did that, it might be quite nice to go back to the Passicalia.
If we start with the Passicalia first, just to sort of set the scene.
Yeah, and then doing the angry bit in the middle, and then going back, because I kind of like the idea of going back to that Passicalia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think we should do both Passicalias the same length, or should we make the first one a little bit shorter so that it's not a very thick breaded sandwich with a tiny filling?
Yeah. And actually, I don't know, maybe, there's all these ideas now, but maybe the first Passicalia we just do quite simply. So there's no additions to the chords. If we were to play it through, I don't know, maybe twice, and then go into the angry bit.
Yeah.
If that's the technical term.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess why don't we just see? Or should we say how long the angry bit should be? Or should we just see what happens? Or maybe that last high note could be the sign for the Passicalia?
Yes.
And then we do the extended version of the Passicalia, just what we've done now.
And just be open to letting it sort of roll until it feels like it's come to a natural.
Again, just to see what happens.
Yeah.
You might be here all day. Okay, so the Passicalia is just simply through twice.
Yeah.
And then
I do my fanfare to signify the beginning of the next.
Great. So that's our kind of sign. Cool. Okay. Let's see how this goes.
I'll try and conduct it instead of counting out loud this time a little bit.
You might like your students to create a coda, coda just meaning ending. I really like the notion of coda when working with student composers because it throws up some really interesting compositional choices late on in the process. You might want to suggest some traditional ways of ending a piece of music, things like growing to a climax, fading away, a big bang, or maybe this is an opportunity to work on your cadences. We had a go at making a coda, and this is what we came up with.
So we need to add a coda onto the end, a little tail, to make sure that everybody knows that we're finished. How do you think would be a good way to do that, especially bearing in mind that we've just got to the nice, calm, fade away bit of the Passicalia?
It'd be quite nice to wake everyone up, wouldn't it?
I think it would, yeah. So what sort of material should we use for that final wake up?
Well, the kind of swoop. There could be kind of like a swooping action. So notes kind of like going up in just one gesture or something, I don't know.
What if the treble instrument, the violin, went up and the bass clarinet went down and I went whoomph.
Oh, excellent.
Across the marimba like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd kind of go. Should we try it?
Okay. How long should it be, though?
Yeah, I think just like quite a brisk.
Yeah.
bit quicker than that, I'll run out of notes.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay. See if I can play that fast. Okay.
At this point in the project, your students should have a finished piece. Ours sounds like this.
from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day.
You could stop here, but if you want your students to make longer music or go deeper into the project, I suggest you return to Sound and Fury, because it splits down into 6 sections, and so far we've only looked at the first and the 5th. If you watch the other sections, you can then go through the methods we've already outlined to create more sections of music. To do this, watch the full performance, which we've put online with the Scottish Chamber Orchestra and their conductor, Catherine Larson-Maguire, or you could dip in and out using the time codes that we've listed on our PDF learning resource. You can also watch the short snippets that we've put online in our concept films. These short films show how Anna Klein tackles some of the concepts on the syllabus. So if you want to get as much as possible out of this project, watch those short films and use them as a basis for further composition. Now, once your students have got more sections of music, they've obviously got more options as to the final structure. They could just join everything together to make one through composed movement like Anna Klein does, or they could join smaller sections together to make bigger sections and look at some classical forms like binary form, A-B, ternary form, A-B-A, or even have a recurring idea and make a rondo. Totally up to you. If your students are now thoroughly bitten by the composing bug, you could do this entire project again, but using their own choice of stimulus piece, a piece from any genre, and their own text. Just make sure that you credit where you get the ideas from and encourage your composers to develop far away from them, especially if you're entering any of these pieces for assessment. Thanks so much for watching. For more on Anna Klein and Sound and Fury, and for that PDF learning resource, check out our website.